Hi there, this is Lee, and I'm talking about Jill Stein with this video, Doctor and Scientist Jill Stein. And I've been noticing the last few weeks that there is a lot of fear, maybe, and envy, maybe, of Jill Stein's designation as doctor and scientist. She's been attacked relentlessly in mainstream media and then also progressive media by writers challenging her credentials, the ability to call herself a scientist, and her ability to speak credibly on scientific issues of environmental health, consumer protection, public health, matters of science, things like this. Despite her background of having attended Harvard College, obtaining a medical degree, the license to practice, and then actually practicing and even teaching in that field, earning a living as a scientist and a doctor, she's been attacked on her background, her position in the professional arena as a doctor, as a scientist, by non-scientists. And this is what I find so strange, that it's not in scientific journals or by scientists themselves. It's in mainstream publications, left-wing publications by political science writers, economic writers, opinion piece writers, people who do not have a scientific background, that are challenging her point of view. And the interesting thing is, it is the science community that actually supports Jill Stein's point of view. She was attacked by Slate magazine on her interpretation of pesticides and how they affected the bee population. Slate magazine, the political and economics writer, shredded or attempted to shred Jill Stein's position. However, it is a peer-reviewed scientific magazine out of the UK called Nature magazine that is very highly regarded in the scientific community that supported Jill Stein's point of view. So her own peers hold her in high regard, support her point of view, and she can base what she says on informed reports in journals and publications. But it's the mainstream media that we have been shown by WikiLeaks to be compromised politically, that seem to want to attack her with propaganda on what they consider to be a scientific basis. Not in fact, more on politics than on scientific fact. But anyway, in this video, I'm talking about her Green New Deal commentary as it relates to Cuba. And the reason that struck me is because she had an interview with Washington Post, a very extensive interview in which she sat with the opinion staff, the editorial board, who write opinions, and discuss a full range of policy issues. And I think she did admirably based on the transcript of what was actually said. There were times where I felt that some of the things that the Washington Post staff attacked her on were kind of petty, even going so far as to ask her a question, get the answer, and then challenge the answer by repeating it or misstating, information, and then, a scientific publication actually bears out her point of view. And so it seems like it's the fact that she is a doctor, a professional person, a scientist, that is really throwing people into some kind of frenzy. And I just don't understand why. I really don't get it. What's this about? But anyway, I'm going to go through what kind of puzzled me with the Washington Post. And it's just one example out of the many ways that she's been attacked on her scientific background and her ability to express her views on scientific issues. And they're educated views. It's just not like, well, I read it in People magazine, I'm just going to say it. I studied it, I practiced it, I was licensed in it, I taught it, and therefore this is my educated opinion, because I'm still reading these peer-reviewed publications, and keeping myself current. But, again, let's just go through it. So, Washington Post interviewed Jill Stein. She sat with their editorial board, and this was August 25th, and they have a transcript, and I'll post a link in the description. And so they're asking Jill Stein about public health, the Green New Deal, and Jill Stein is saying, and I can tell you this isn't just an engineering study, this was actually what happened in the country of Cuba when their oil pipeline went down and their pollution disappeared, essentially with the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. Within a couple of years, their death rates from diabetes had gone down 50%, their obesity rates went down 50%, their death rates from heart attacks and strokes went down about 30%, and that was within 5 years. And so someone named Hochstetter at the Washington Post decides to chime in with his opinion. Can I just ask you something in your capacity as a doctor? I spent quite a bit more time in Cuba at that time when they lost their Soviet oil subsidies, and people were extremely miserable. They couldn't have soap. They didn't have basic things. And one of the things they couldn't afford is cigarettes. It was an extremely heavy smoking society before that, and also rum. There were a lot of things they couldn't afford. Couldn't the lack of smoking, the decline in smoking, have accounted for a lot of those health improvements? That is Hochstetter offering his opinion that the reason for these health improvements were a severe reduction in smoking and drinking. Okay, so Jill Stein gave her point of view. Hochstetter gave his point of view. The Washington Post goes on to write its commentary based on that transcript, and it says, to support her health prognostication, she, meaning Stein, and probably cited Cuba's experience losing access to Russian oil after the fall of the Soviet Union, after which she pointed out Cubans became healthier. In fact, they became healthier because they could no longer afford to smoke or drink alcohol, and because so many involuntarily lost weight. And then the opinion piece goes on to quote a different publication by saying, Cubans survived drinking sugared water and eating anything they could get their hands on, including domestic pets and the animals in the Havana Zoo. This is according to Richard Schiffman, recounted in The Atlantic. They became virtual vegans overnight. So everyone's got an opinion on this. And most striking about the commentary write-up is how they ridicule Jill Stein on her point of view. They're saying, well, she thinks it's this, but no, it was this because Hochstetter said so. And then Richard Schiffman says, well, they ate zoo animals. That's why they lost weight. That's why they lost weight. Okay, everyone's got an opinion. Richard Schiffman from The Atlantic, Hochstetter from the Washington Post. How about let's see what the Green New Deal group that's out of the United Kingdom that has people on the editorial board from Friends of the Earth and other organizations like New Economic Forum, things like that. Let's see what they think about this issue. According to their report, dramatic reductions in consumption coupled with other dietary and lifestyle changes, people walked more, altered the health of the nation. As calorie intake fell by more than 1/3, the proportion of physically active adults more than doubled and obesity halved. Between 1997 and 2002, 5 years, like Jill Stein said, deaths attributed to diabetes fell by half. As Jill Stein said, coronary heart disease by 35%, strokes by 20%, and all causes of death by just under 1/5. These findings were published in 2007 in the American Journal of Epidemiology and carry a profound message about the potential benefits of reduced consumption. So they support Jill Stein's statements. On the fly, she was asked questions and she came out on the fly with a response that's supported by the American Journal of Epidemiology. Peer-reviewed, scientific, well-respected, that supports Jill Stein, Dr. Jill Stein, on her point of view of public health in Cuba as it relates to the Green New Deal, as the Green New Deal group also has said. So despite that, Washington Post has decided that Jill Stein's living in a fairy tale, that her statements are fairy tale, and that they have to correct her and reprimand her point of view. And it's just interesting that she was able to come up with these answers with facts and figures, statistics, concrete statements, pull it all together in a scientific manner, on the fly. These questions weren't planned, I don't think, and she was able to reflect in her mind on scientific publications by peer-reviewed editorial staff. So I think that's just a sign of her intelligence, her knowledge of her field, and the reason why people are calling her anti-science and fairy tale is a mystery to me. I don't understand the motivation behind that, why she'll say something and then immediately it's turned around into something crazy, even though it's based in science and her own peers in the scientific world support her point of view. And it makes you wonder, like, why would non-scientists ridicule a scientist and call her anti-science, even going so far as to try to attempt to correct her, and then after taking time to look around, they kind of answer back with some more statements that really don't make a lot of sense, but they've had time to do a little research, and it's still basically coming to her point of view. So it's kind of weird how she's being attacked this way. I don't really understand it. Maybe if you're reading or if you're watching this video, you can kind of help me speculate on why that is, that there's just this need to attack Jill Stein on her scientific views. Is it because people feel threatened by the fact that she is a doctor? I really don't get it. What would motivate something like that? It makes no sense to me. But if you have an answer, help me out here. Tell me what's going on. What do you think? And I'll leave links in the description, and you can read for yourself and maybe see what you think of the Washington Post write-up of their transcript and their view of Jill Stein's responses.